Hey guys, it's Trey here, back again with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be creating another React component. This React component will be a list box. And in the list box, we're going to have basically just a list of items that you can choose from. You'll be able to select multiple of them. And also we'll have basically like a filter box where you can, like if you have a really long list, you can type in the filter box and it'll filter out all the unwanted items in that list. If you haven't seen before, we've already started making some components. If I go here and look, we have a card component, we have a showcase component, and a table component. So today we will be doing this list box. But before we start, I want to show you how to get the code. Basically, if you haven't been following along, if you haven't seen any of the other videos, you can go to my GitHub page, and I will post this link in the description so you can get here. And once you get here, you just go to this green code box, click on it, and then hit this copy button, and that will get you a link to the code. Once you have that, you would go back to your terminal, and you would navigate to whichever folder you want to put the repository in, and then you would type in git clone, and then paste that link. And once you hit enter, it will copy all the files and everything, but obviously I have it here, so I won't do that. Once you clone the files in, it's going to be on the master branch. As you can see, we want to be on this feature list box branch, because if you're on the master branch, all the code that I'm about to write now is already going to be done. So if you want to follow along, you would need to switch to this branch. And in order to do that, you would just type in git checkout feature / list - box. When you click that, it'll switch you over to this branch with the starter code in it. All right. So as you can see, we're already on this branch, so I'm good to go. Once you get here, you are ready to go. All right. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So here I already have this list box folder created. And we have a CSS file which has all the styles in it. I already pre-made this because I didn't want to waste a lot of time on the styling of the list box. I just wanted to show you how to code it up, because styling is always up to the developer, and you can style this however you want once you get it working and everything. So what we need to do is go to this list box folder, create a new file. I'm going to call it listbox.js. This will be our component file, and inside of here I'm going to use a snippet to create a template for our component. So I'm going to say RFCE, hit enter, and here is our functional component. I'm going to get this out of here, and I'm going to start by setting up a class, and this class is going to be called listbox. All right, and this class name is in that CSS file over here, so you can check that out. Let's import that file right now while we're talking about it. So we're going to do /listbox.css, and this will pull in all those styles. All right. So from here, we can go ahead and pass in our props. So we know if we're going to have a list box that we need a list. So we're going to pass that in. I'm going to set the default to an empty list. Also, we need a callback function to handle whenever the list is, whenever an item is selected in the list. So what we're going to do is pass in a callback call on selected, and then I'm going to set the default for this as basically like a placeholder. It's going to be a function an empty function. This doesn't do anything. So I'm going to call this on selected placeholder. All right, and let's go up here and create that really fast. So we'll come up above the function signature, and we're going to type in const on selected placeholder. And this prop function is going to take in two values. So it's going to have a new selection, which is basically the item that was selected when we clicked on an item in the list. So that will be that item, that specific item. And then we're going to pass in the selected list. And this is the list of selected items. So whatever the newest one that we clicked on was, and the whole list that has been selected. So that's what this is. And we're just going to set it as an empty function for now. All right. So now we set that. The next prop we need is a width percentage. So what the width percentage would do is set the width for the entire list box within its parent component. So basically, we're setting a percentage for how wide we want this. So by default, we're just going to set it to 100%. All right. So that's what that is. And then we also want to set a max height. So the max height basically is just how tall we will allow this list box to get. So because if it's a really long list, we don't want it just running all the way down the page. All right. Well, maybe you do, but you can always change this to whatever you want. All right. So that is the list of props. And now that we have those done, we can go ahead and work on our state. So we need about 3 state variables to hold certain values. So the first thing we need is some filter text. So that is the text that is typed into the filter so that we filter that list out with the values that you actually want to see. Then we have the filtered list, which is the actual list of filtered items. And then we also have the selected values, which is the list of values that have been selected by the user. All right, so let's go ahead and set this up. Use state, and I'm using some snippets here, so that's why everything's just popping up, kind of. So the first thing we wanted was filter text, and we're going to set this to just the empty string for now. Then we want use state, and we're going to get the filtered list, and we'll just set that to list to start out with, so the list that was passed in. And then we're going to want the snippet, and then we're going to want the selected values. And this is just a list of selected values. We're going to set that to an empty list to start off with. All right. So now that we have our state, we can go ahead and write out the markup for our component. So once we come down here, the first thing we want to do is use this width percentage to set the width of our component. So we're going to say style, and then we're going to set the width to width percent plus, and then the actual percentage here. All right, so that will set the width of our component. Next up, we're going to do a wrapper for our input. So I'm going to add a class here called block, which is once again in this listbox.css file. You can check all the styles there. And next up, we actually want our input. So we're going to have a class name of full width, and then our type is going to be text, and then we have a placeholder which will be set to our selected values, and then we're going to join them all together by a comma. All right, so this is going to basically have all of our values that have been selected as the placeholder. So if our filter is empty, it's just going to show all the ones you've selected. Right. And from here, we're going to have an on change. So whenever the input changes, we want to be able to do filtering of the list. So we're going to pass in to a function that we're going to write later. I'm going to call it on filter, and then we're going to say target.value. All right, and that will just get the value of our input box. And then the last thing we want to do is set the value to be whatever the filter text is. So that will do it for our input. Scroll down, and underneath this block div, we're going to go ahead and add in our list. So we're going to say UL set the class name to full width, and then we want to do overflow auto. Alright, and then we're going to set the styling for this. We're going to say that the max height is equal to the max height prop, which we passed in up here. So it'll be set to 400 pixels. So from here, inside of here, we want to add in our list items. So we're going to take the filtered list and we're going to map these items. So we're going to say item index, and inside of here we're going to actually have our list item. We need to set the key because we are mapping over this, so we're going to set it to index. Set some classes on here. We're going to call this no highlight, and then we can do the style. And inside of here, we're going to set the background color. So we're going to say background color, selected values, includes item. I'm going to explain this a little bit in a minute. I'm just going to type it out really fast. And then we're going to have a highlight color. Otherwise, it'll be white. Alright, next up, we're going to have the value, which will be set to item. And we need an on-click function so that when you click on it, we know, hey, you want to do something with this. So we're going to pass in a function that we have not written yet, which is going to be called onSelect. And I made a mistake with this. It's supposed to be these. Alright. And then inside of here, we're just going to have the item name. Alright. So at this point, let me explain what we're doing here in this list item. So we got to set the key because that's the React thing. Whenever you map to something, you got to set the key. Here we have a class name of no highlight. Basically, is the class CSS class it won't allow highlighting of the words in the list item. Here we have the style being set. So when you click on a list item here, then it will get added to the selected values. So now we're saying, hey, if selected values includes the item that we're on, then go ahead and set the background to the highlight color, which basically indicates to the user that you have selected this. Otherwise, just set the background color to white. And this is not supposed to be a space here. All right. So that's what this styling is doing. It's just setting the background when you click on the item. Then we set the value of the item to whatever the name of the item is. And then we have an on click. So when we click, we're going to do this on select function, which we haven't written yet. And we're just going to pass in the item name. And then in the actual list, this is what you're going to see, the item name. All right, so that's what we're doing here. And pretty much that is it for the markup. Now we just need to go ahead and create our functions on filter, on select, and we also, where is it? We need to create this highlight color variable here. So I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to create that highlight color, highlight color, and I'm going to set this equal to RGB 221 170 119. And it's going to give us like an orange color. Once again, change this to whatever you want if you're not fond of the styling. So now we have this highlight color. It's a thing. Next, we need to go ahead and do this on filter function. So I'm going to scroll up in between our state and our return. I'm going to create this function. So we're going to say const on filter. We'll say filter. All right, so we're getting the whatever that filter text was here, and now we actually want to do the filtering. So we're going to say set filter text to whatever the filter is. Then we're going to say if the filter does not exist, so I'm going to say if not filter or filter is empty, then we want to go ahead and say set filtered list to the original list. Alright, and then we're going to return so that we don't do any of this other code down here. So basically, if the filter is null or it's empty, then just set it to the entire list so we can see everything. Alright, next up is actually setting the filtered list. So if this is not true, then we just actually want to do the filter. So we're going to say set filtered list, and then we're going to grab the original list and we're going to filter it based off of the text. So we're going to say item.to lowercase, and then we're going to see if it includes the filter to lowercase. So we're going to lowercase both of them so that we can have a match, because if one's uppercase and one's lowercase, that's not a match. So we're just going to put everything to lowercase so we can match on everything that we type in. And this will set our filtered list, and when the filtered list gets set, as you can see, that's what we're mapping through right here. So when we change the filtered list, this will re-render with the filter items. All right. So that's it for our onFilter function. Next up, we need our onSelect function, which was put down here. So let's go ahead and we're going to create onSelect. And onSelect takes in the item. So inside of here, we're going to want to set up a variable called new selections. And this is basically going to include all of the selected values that we have now at this point, and then we're going to add in the item that we just selected. And then from here, we want to make sure that the item that we just selected is not already in selected values, because if it is already in selected values, then what we're going to do is we're going to remove that item from the selected list. So basically, it's like a toggle. So when you click on an item, it will add it to the selected list. And if you click on that same item again, it's going to remove it from that selected list. So that's how you can add and remove selected values. All right, so what we need to do is we need to check to see if this item is already a part of the selected values. If it is, then we want to take it out of selected values. All right, so we're going to do that by saying selected values that includes item. So if this is true, then we want to remove it. So we're going to say new selections equals new selections dot filter, and then we're going to have a selection. And we're going to say selection does not equal item. All right. So this is going to basically filter out this item here. That's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to get any selection that does not equal whatever the item is, and it's going to return to new selections. All right. So from here, we're going to go ahead and we'll set the selected values, and we're going to set that to new selections, and then we're going to set the filter text to nothing, and we're going to also set on filter and then to nothing. And then we'll set on selected, and this is the callback function here, and we're going to pass in item and new selections. All right, so let's explain this. So here we're going to set the selected values to the new selections, which will include the new item, or if it was already there, it's going to remove that item. So that's basically all of our new selections. We're going to set the filter text back to nothing. So basically what that's going to do is clear that filter text, and then we're going to call onFilter with nothing. So what that will do, if we go up here to onFilter, we'll see that if it's equal to nothing, then, or empty string, then we're going to set the filter list to the original list, which will give us back our full list of items. And then we call this callback function, and this is going to send the item that we just clicked on and our new selection list back to the user. All right, because that is equivalent to this prop that we passed in. All right, so we're good to go there with our on select. Let's go down here and see. Oh, that S should be capitalized to match this function. All right. So now that that is set, I think we're done with our component. So yeah, let's go back to our app.js and import it and use it. All right. So to start off with, I have this country list, which if you go to your util and countries file, you'll see that there's a list of a bunch of countries here. All right. So I'm going to use this as our list for our list box. Okay. So if I go here, and inside of this inner div right here, we're going to go ahead and add our list box in. So we're going to say list box. As you see it imported for me. Make sure that you do your import, because if you don't import this, this won't work. Then we're going to say list is equal to country list. And then we'll set the width percent to, let's say, 20%. All right. And now we should be able to see this. So if you go to your terminal, we're going to go ahead and run this. So we're going to say npm run start. And this should crank up our development server. There it goes. Pops up. All right, so I've run into an error. So basically here, we run to the error in the list box component, and it's saying expected return value in this function. So the issue is if we go back to our list box and scroll down to this filtered list, the issue is that when we're doing this map, we have these curly braces here. Remove the curly braces and this semicolon if you have it. That will fix it, or not. All right, and I have an error. So here it is, right here. I pulled the use state in from the wrong place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to come up here, set that to the correct import from React. And then if I go back to our browser here, we see that I have our list box here. So here we have all of the countries here in this list. It's 400 pixels tall. So we know that our max height is working. The width seems to be right. We set it to, I think, 20%. I think. Yep, so 20% here. And now if we do a select, we see that it pops up here as the placeholder. It highlights. If I scroll down, let's do Costa Rica. Boom. And now let's type in United States. See, it's showing all of the values from the list that have United in the name. So I'm going to click on United States, clears it, resets the list, and gives us the ones that we selected. All right. So that's pretty much it. I guess I can show you the deselect. So we see Costa Rica here. It's here. Click it again. Disappears out of this list, and it disappears out of here. I guess we can show you one last thing, which would be the actual on select function. So let's go here. Inside render, we're going to say const on selected, and then we're going to get, let's see, what do we get? I'm just going to copy this, paste it in there, and we're just going to console log it. I'll save that, and then inside of here, we need to set the on selected to our on selected. So once we do this, we'll be using this as our callback function. and we will replace this function. All right. So now, whenever we click on something in the list, we should see in the console that we're printing out this line and this line. So let's go back to our browser. I'm going to open the console and let's click here. So we can see the new selection, American Samoa, and it is in the list. Let's do Australia. We see the new selection was Australia, and this is the complete and total list that we have. And if we remove that, we see that Australia was what we selected, and now it is removed from the list. All right. So that's pretty much it for this list box. Let's do the filter. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you would like to see something else done with this, just let me know down in the comments. I will make a video for it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe to the channel and all that jazz. And I will see you guys in the next video.